Welcome to Adventures with Dice. I'm Rob, and in this video, I'm going to be talking to you about my Tales of Argosa campaign and how I set it up, what kind of things I used or am using for it, and how I'm going to use it on basically two fronts. One, I'm going to be using it for my normal Tuesday night campaign with a group, and two, how I'm going to use it for solo play. And you basically use the same setup for both games. So, Tales of Argosa does not come with a complete setting in the book, like a lot of RPGs. There will be box sets that come out that are going to have different information on the settings, the Midland settings where Argosa is set, and there is some of that on Drive Through RPG now that you can get. There is some information that I've gone over in other videos in here relating to the gods and speaking a little bit about the history, but it only gives you just a taste. So I had the task ahead of me of setting up a game of Tales of Argosa for my Tuesday night game, and I wanted to do something a little bit different. I started out with a overland map that I did, and I'm probably still going to use it at some point in this campaign, but on this map I followed the procedure that is in the Tales of Argosa book. So each hex is like a 6-mile hex and so on and so forth for them to explore, but we're not going to be using that right away. I decided that I wanted to do something that was different than what I normally do. Now, the caveat to this, and let me get this out of the way right now, I'm not saying this is the only way to set up a campaign. This is just how I set this campaign up. You set your campaign up however you want to. But I went into this with the thought process of I wanted to do something different than what I normally do, because what I normally do is that it's the, draw an overland map and have them explore it. But in this one, I wanted to do some seafaring stuff, some pirate stuff, some things like that. So I decided to take and create a set of islands, which I call my campaign the Isles of Argosa, and run a story that's going to have them exploring large areas but going to other islands at later points. The other thing that I looked at that I wanted to do is I really wanted to do a sandbox style game. And if you don't know what that is, it's the opposite of a railroad type game where in an adventure where they have a story that says, okay, well, the story takes you to this point, then to this point, then to this point. In this, I wanted them to be able to explore what they found interesting. And I'll get into how I did that in my GM notebook here in a minute. But I started out with my Hex notebook, which is, you can get these on Amazon. I don't think they're very expensive, maybe like $10, something like that. But anyway, I started out with, I wanted to draw out the islands. So I drew out the islands, and I did not fill everything in. I filled in what I needed to get the game going. And as ideas come to me of faraway islands and things they can go find and treasures and so on and so forth, I will fill in information on this map as we go. Now, because this is the ocean and these are islands, these are not, in my game, 6-mile hexes. I had to zoom out, and the hexes become quite a bit bigger. So each hex on this map is 30 miles or 5 normal hexes. And then even then, travel by sea barge or ship or whatever is going to be affected by the weather rules and travel rules that are in here. So we have all that. I created the city of Scales, which is where they're in the land of Avalon, or island of Avalon, which is where they're going to start. And I steal stuff from all over the place, and you can do the same thing when you set your campaign up. And this kind of thing works whether you're playing Tales of Argosa or any campaign, any fantasy campaign, really. You just take what you want and you put it together. But I knew that I wanted it to be a sandbox. I knew that I wanted them to have a lot of hex crawl exploration stuff. I knew that I wanted them to be able to kind of choose the direction the story goes. So I took care of all of those. And like I said, we'll be going over that in a minute. I'll show you how I did it. And you may use it because I drew inspiration from other YouTubers. And maybe you like something you see here and you want to draw that inspiration for yourself. So I left a lot of open area for me to grow the campaign later on as we play. But I wanted my campaign, because this is a new campaign for them, my players, that is, I wanted it to be a new place that they didn't know and they would be able to explore. So I did that in the backstory, tying two locations together on the map and having them show up in a city that they had never been to before and can't really go back to their old city, and you'll see why. Now, this kind of setup works really well for group play, but it also works really well for solo play, because the things that they are going to be exposed to, the rumors and NPCs and things like that, that they help create, that story they help create, is going to give me springboards to launch off of with a solo campaign and have my own hero who's going around doing stuff in my solo game, but it's still connected to the main story. It's not affecting what they do yet, but I mean, it could at some point. They could intermix, but the idea is they're helping build the world that my solo game is taking place in. So when we are playing on the tabletop and we come to dungeon exploration or wilderness exploration or anything like that where combat can ensue, I do use maps and miniatures for the most part, unless it's something real quick. And I do that just because I like maps and miniatures. My players like maps and miniatures. If you don't like maps and miniatures, don't use them. Problem solved. If you do, then use them. I use a combination of map boards that I make, maps that I have. I use white blank 1-inch grid maps and draw stuff out sometimes. I use HeroScape tiles to, I keep a board set up that me and my daughter play on. And if I, like right now, it's set up in a wilderness situation with some ruins and stuff on it. And if they end up going in a direction like that, and there's a combat encounter, I can just pull that out, set it on the table, and use it. And yes, HeroScape is got the hexes instead of squares, but it doesn't really matter. You're just counting for movement. And I use miniatures mostly for my players. I do use them for some monsters, but if you don't have miniatures, here's another thing you can do, or you can intermix the two, which is what I'm doing. So I took a ton of the artwork from the PDF from Tales of Argosa and just character tokens is what I made. And I don't know how well you can see this, but I took the character portraits, I put them all into the computer in, I think, a Word document or something, and cut them all down to a little over an inch. Printed everything out, and then after I printed everything out, I have a 1-inch hole punch that I also got off of Amazon for a couple of bucks, and I punched them out and I put them in these little token cases things. Well, these are 1-inch cases that are generally used for coins, but I use them for tokens. So there's, and these can be, these player character ones can be NPCs that my players run into. I also have made a bunch of them for monsters. Got some deep one type creatures here. And you can get these in different sizes and hole punches in different sizes if you want to make these yourself. It's really cheap, and because I think you get I think you get 100 of these tokens and the case for like $7.99 off of Amazon, and that's all I did to make the tokens that we're going to be using. Now, like I said, I'm going to be using regular miniatures for my player characters, but these are going to be fantastic for when I don't have a miniature for a certain creature, or I need some, I need some gnolls real fast to throw on the table or whatever. And it comes in these cool little cases you can keep them in. So those are pretty useful, and they're useful when I'm doing solo gaming and I don't want to have a ton of miniatures out here. Also, for solo gaming, I will be using my deck of signs, which I've talked about a little bit in other videos. I'm going to go over it more later on, but this is a deck of it's a spark deck basically to get ideas from. And because I sleeved them, they won't fit back in the original tuck box anymore. But I got a bunch of these. I think you can get these on Amazon. I don't know. They're technically crayon boxes that they sell when school starts. You can get them for 50 cents a piece or something. I use them a lot for my card games and put different games in them. One of the other things that I did, and I'll be going over this more in a video on hirelings, is you have basically two types of hirelings in the game. You have non-combatants and combatants, and there's a price difference in what you pay to hire these guys, but they don't have as much information to keep up with as a regular character. You can fit everything on a 4x6 card, and the process of rolling them up is actually really fun. So I'm going to do a video where I roll a few of them up on video, and we get to see how they are. But these are great to have for not just hirelings, but if you want to make a bunch of these and have them on hand, they're fantastic for instant NPCs, because they also have they're going to have a background. This guy's a miner, this guy was a hangman. You have instant NPCs that you can pull from and use in your game, and that's a really helpful tool. And I made the cards, but you can just do them on 4x6 index cards, or if you squeeze it in, you might be able to do it on 3x5. But anyway, I digress. That's something we're going to go over when we get more into the actual hireling video. So your other most important tool, or my most important tool, is my DM's notebook. Like, this is something I have to have. I keep all my notes organized in here, and I'm going to show you some of the stuff that I use. And so first off, I have a spark table that I use, which is similar to the way the cards work, but I like rolling on tables, so I made a spark table. I got this idea from Mike over at Solitary RPG. I really liked his idea for it, so I made my own. And you can make the spark table as lengthy as you want. I made mine 24 because I have a D24 that I wanted to use, but you could make it a D8, a D10, a D20, whatever you wanted to make it. And basically the spark table, if I need information about a person, place, or thing, or something that's going on somewhere, I can roll on this table 3 times and get a noun, a verb, and an adjective, and put them together in the same way that you would use spark cards to garner extra information. Now it may come into play some in the regular campaign, but it's probably going to come into play more in my solo campaign. But because I intend to be using this a lot, it went in my GM notebook. Now, one of the other things you do in this game is the way XP works is you have, like a lot of games, at the end of the game session, you'll ask questions, and for every yes they can answer, they get an XP point. And then they add these XP points up and level up. There are a lot of ways to get XP in this game, but it doesn't tell you to use all these charts. It tells you to cherry pick. and build your own XP chart. And that's kind of what I did here. So I have a section of items for 1 XP, 2 XP, and 3 XP. And at the end of each game session, I'll go down the list, and for each one that they can answer yes to, they get the XP for that bracket. So, for instance, in this one in group play, for 1 XP apiece, did they defeat a significant foe, save a PC, ally, or innocent from severe injury or death, successfully retreat from a losing battle, explore several hexes of untamed dangerous wilds, discover a new ruin, dungeon, or lair, or major point of interest, or did they play out a madness or addiction? Any of those that they answer yes to, they get a 1 XP for. Then in the 2 XP bracket, I have, did they defeat a difficult foe, discover lost or forgotten lore, or learn an important clue, solve a riddle or a puzzle, did they make a new contact of significant power? Any of those they answered yes to, they get 2 XP. And then for 3 XP, did they explore 90% of an adventure site? Did they earn new henchmen, which is a thing in the hireling process. Any henchmen they have a chance to kind of level up into a level 1 character at the end of an adventure. Did they overcome a dangerous obstacle without using force? And any of those they answered yes to, they get 3 XP. And I think from level 1 to level 2 is 10 XP, and so on and so forth. We'll go over that more in another video. But that's how I'm doing the XP for my game. I also leave a few pages blank in between stuff because I may want to add to things later. So now we get into my information on my Isles of Argosa campaign. And here is how I stole stuff and put stuff together to build the campaign that I wanted to run. In my Isles of Argosa campaign, I kind of did a backstory setup to put them in the place I wanted them to be, and then I started putting charts and information together for them to explore. So they're going to start out from Lost Carcosa. You know where I stole that from, most likely, if you've been a fan of Lovecraft style work. But it says, Carcosa, the land in which you have lived your whole lives is lost. Serpent men, a race long thought to have been wiped out, suddenly sprang forth from secret portals that had been hidden in strategic places all across Carcosa. Cultists of Set, traitors to mankind, had infiltrated all walks of life, gaining positions of power. Queen Vespa is even rumored to have been one of them. They've grown dark cults to worship their ancient evil serpent god Set. When the attack came, it came swiftly and all at once. In the weeks that followed the incursion, city after city, town after town, and village after village fell to the serpent men and those with dark, evil hearts that served them. Those that survived the attack hid or fled. Each of you bartered passage on one of the last sea barges to leave the shores of Lost Carcosa. Rough weather found you at sea for 6 days aboard the Dirty Hunter before making port on the coast of Avalon near the City of Scales. The City of Scales is controlled by powerful merchant houses. It is a massive trade port riddled with corruption, thieves, pirates, slavers, and more unsavory types that walk the streets freely alongside the city watch and respectable folk. Nearly anything can be found here, provided you ask the right person and have coin. So that's just kind of a setup for why they ended up way down here. Now, I haven't done my full city map. I'm getting some big art pads that I'm going to draw out the city map in detail to where I can do a hex overlay on it, and they can explore the city as if it were a regular hex grid. But just for my own information, I needed to put some stuff in here to give them kind of the feel of what they see. So we start out, they're going to start in the dock ward because they've just arrived. And I use a keyword system to kind of set the tone for it. So my keywords for the dock ward are dirty, overcrowded, bustling, smelly. There's sewers, open air markets. And in the dock ward, we see docks everywhere, obviously, warehouses, stevedores working, seedy bars, and gambling dens, two of which I listed here because they're likely to want to go to a bar or an inn right away. We have the Hopping Frog, which is a seedy, dirty inn. Malcolm is the human owner. And then I put the Pirate's Pit. It's a rough bar, gambling house, run by Pegleg Pete. So you'll notice that I don't put a ton of information about the locations because I have found in years of doing this that it's kind of pointless for a game like this when I'm setting it up to run for my friends, because I will inevitably, and you will too, write a ton of information about places that they don't bother to visit. So it's a waste of time. So what I try to do is list off places that I think they will visit, use keywords to kind of give me a mental picture of how to describe it when they go there, and go back and fill in the notes later after the game. I keep another notebook where I can just jot stuff down real quick, and then I can go back and add to this notebook and flesh this city out as we go. So the 3 hex idea that I actually saw on Daniel on Bandit's Keep, one of his videos, I really liked it because I wanted to, the idea, I don't know why it's called 3 hexes, but it's like 3 major rumors or stories, and you just want to give enough information to yourself here to kind of get the story going if it's something that piques their interest. Now, there are lots of videos on how to do this. You don't want them to just get off the docks and people run up to them like in a video game and just start spilling all the rumors about the city they know. This is information that I can sprinkle out through them interacting with NPCs or people in bars, or, whatever. That's how I can sprinkle this stuff out. And then when they bite on one, I know what they're interested in, and I can get it going. And after the game, I can come back and start filling more in about that adventure and let them continue on. Now, these other things, they might continue to happen. They might continue to, over time, events may occur that are related to this. Just like I don't have anything in here about the Serpent Men attack on Argosa, but I really want to use a bigger, grander stage story about the Serpent Men, and that's why they're way up here in this island at the top. They've come in, they've taken over. Nobody thought that they were forced to or that they even existed anymore, but now here they are. And there's going to be war looming later on in the future. And how the players interact with this is really going to be up to them, because the adventures that they are being presented with in the beginning don't really have a lot to do with that. So what I did was these are rumors that they can hear around the dock ward, and each of these rumors are not connected to each other. They're different stories completely. And this is things that they can learn from talking to the blacksmith, or talking to one of the stevedores, or talking to the dockmaster, or whoever. But they're things that I can seed in, and then if the players are like, oh yeah, let's check that out, then I know which way they want to go. That way I'm giving them, on one hand, you want to give your players agency, but on the other hand, you don't want to, in my opinion, just open the whole world up and be like, yeah, just do whatever you want, because you have no direction to go in whatsoever. So I kind of put some things out there and then see what they bite on. And by the time people see this first one will have already happened, so I'll go ahead and read what I have here. I have one rumor is that there's a group of thugs that can be overheard discussing plans to break into the tomb of a local sage that died 2 weeks ago. Word has it, he was buried with his journals, and it holds secrets to find a lost temple somewhere here in Avalon. and a great treasure, maybe even magical artifacts, lays hidden in its bowels. And these thieves are hoping that this is going to be the score of a lifetime. And that's all I wrote about it. I didn't stat these thieves out. I didn't do anything with them yet because there's NPC thieves and stuff I can use out of the monster section in the book. If they decide to interact with that, they might decide to try to beat the thieves to the punch on this, or they might decide that they want to lay in wait and rob the thieves when they come out of the tomb. Let them do the work. Who knows? I don't know how that's going to play out. And that's part of the fun for me, is I put the rumors out there and then I just let them choose how they're going to interact with it. Another one that I have here is there's a large contingent of suitors that have arrived from Dracakios, and they have hopes to impress the merchant house of Von Baylor and marry the eldest daughter, Lady Vanessa Von Baylor. Word on the street is her father and head of the house, Roman Von Baylor, is all for the idea, but Vanessa isn't, and would do nearly anything to drive the suitor from Dracakios away. And I gave him a name, Sir Austin. And because I did that, I went in and listed this island area here as Dracakios. I don't know anything else about Dracakios except that there's guys from here that are trying to impress a merchant house and get an arranged marriage. That's all I know about it right now. And as play progresses, I'll be filling stuff in and finding out along with my players. The other big rumor that I had is the blood moon is coming in 2 nights. Many folk are invoking strange superstitions and rites to ward off evil, driving away cats, lining doorways with salt, marking foreheads with blood, and such as the blood moon marks the start of the 3 nights of terror, during which a vicious lycanthrope is thought to stalk the city. All of these are things that can play out in different directions. You got one that's about robbing tombs. You got one that's about getting into some political intrigue. You got one that's about fighting a monster that's loose in the city. All 3 going in different directions, but all 3 can be very fun adventures. But who knows what the players are going to choose. And you don't hit them with this all at once. They learn these rumors from different places. Which brings me to small random encounter list that I made. Now I got this idea from Daniel at Bandit's Keep as well, and I kind of made it my own. When they are in a bar or exploring a hex of the city, and keep in mind they don't know anything about this. This is a chart that I made that I can roll real quickly or just choose and have something that's of interest. Like they're in a bar and I could roll, I roll twice on chart 1 and once on chart 2. So I'd roll, and then roll and put it together. So let's say I rolled a 2, a 5, and a 4. Or let's say I rolled a 3, a 5, and a 4. So I would have a beggar exchanging money with a guard. They could be sitting in a bar and, okay, well, what do I see? Well, you see this, that, and the other. And at this one table over here, you see a guy who's clearly a beggar, like he's really dirty and everything, and he's sitting there with one of the town guard, which is odd to begin with. But you notice him exchange money, like he pays the guard. Why is he paying the guard? What is the guard even doing in the tavern talking to this guy? Well, I mean, if you're using one of these story hooks, maybe the beggar is part of the Thieves Guild or trying to be part of the Thieves Guild, and he's paying off the guard who guards this section of the cemetery where this tomb is, and they're planning to go in and rob this tomb and get the sage's information out of his tomb. There's a million different ways you can intermix this and use it. So one of the other things I did was I also wanted to put some groups in, but I don't want to list every group and faction in the city because, again, you start listing too much and you end up with a lot of stuff you don't ever use. So I said, okay, well, I'm going to do 5 or 6 factions that operate within the city and see where we go from there. You know, some of this is stuff that may come up. So I just did like one little line of information about each group, because until they interact with that group, I don't need to know more about that group than that one line of information. When they interact with that group, though, that's when it starts getting interesting, and I can start building on that information. Again, keeping separate notes that I come back and fill in my notebook later. So my first group I put is the Cult of the Purple Star God, and all I wrote was they worship of a great old one. I don't know any more than that, but it sounds Lovecraftian, and I love Lovecraftian monsters, so this was like, yeah, let me put a cult in here that is dedicated to a great old one, and that's a way that I can tie some Lovecraftian stuff into it later. If they interact with them, then I have the Six Fingers. They are thieves that run the city underworld. That's all I need to know, is that there's an organized group of thieves that run the underworld in the town, in the city, but I don't need more information on it until the players interact with it. So until they interact, that one sentence is all I need to know. Then I have the Black Hand. Think medieval mafia. They offer protection for a price. I put the White Flame in, and I've used them in some of my other games. They are witch hunters. They are hunting arcane users, and they are sponsored by the Temple of Solari. Now, they are there because this setting, magic is very rare. People are scared of magic. There's not magic shops everywhere. There's not people floating around, buying spells and markets. That stuff doesn't happen because this is very sword and sorcery, where sorcery is feared. The witch hunters feed off of that. But all I needed to know was that they were witch hunters, they hunt wizards, and what church was sponsoring them. Then I have the Servants of the Star. They work from the back of a gambling den, providing food, clothing, and info to the needy. Again, that's pretty cool, but I don't need it until the players interact with it or somebody connected to it. But when they do, I already have that information here, and I know, hey, we're looking for information, and we're going to start with the gambling dens and things like that. Hey, I've already got a group here that's, in my mind, technically a good guy group. They're helping people, and if that's the kind of information they're seeking, I can use this. If not, maybe if they're looking to get involved in robbing graves, which I have a few players that probably will. Maybe I want to have them interact with somebody from the Six Fingers. So that's how you can use that kind of stuff. And as you get more ideas over time, jot them down in your notebook and just use them when they become available. So one of the other things that I did here was I listed points of interest. And again, points of interest is a lot like my groups here, my small random encounters and my groups. It's a name of a point of interest and then a little bit of information about it. And these are things that will likely come up at some point during play. And when they do, I already have a tie-in with just enough information to give me those keywords to set that image in my head. I wanted to represent the temples for the gods that are listed in here. So I have the Temple of Argosa, and all I wrote was Hands of Mercy. Maybe their priestesses are called their priestess or priest are called the Hands of Mercy, and they help people. With the Temple of Baal, he's the Lord of Crows. His priests are known as Boneyard Bishops. The Temple of Graxus, their temples are known as the Forge. They are ministers of might. I have the followers of Shinog. They have no formal temple. Worship of Shinog is kept secret. So they're there, they're just not out in the open. I have the Servants of Solari. Their worship sites are set up in the wilderness outside cities, not inside the cities. I have the Scribes of Wodan. They are found at the College of Understanding. And this is where you'll find your sages and your scribes, and you go to do your research, which there's all rules for in the game to find information about adventure hooks. I put the Sewers. Now on this one I listed the sewers. They allow unseen movement throughout the city, but they're dangerous. They're dirty. Diseases like foam fever and black retch, slimes, rat men like the scrat, and other creatures are rumored to dwell down there. That gives me a great mental picture of how to present the sewers in the game should they go into the sewers. If they never go into the sewers or they avoid the sewers, that's all the information I need. I don't need to flesh that out any more than I already have. I have the Stevedores Union Hall. It's a meeting place for dock workers. I have the dock master's office. I gave him a name, Vance Sigfrid. And I just wrote Grumpy Old Man because every campaign needs a grumpy old man to deal with. I have the Avalon Boneyard with a northwest and south field, and I listed that it is guarded because of people robbing graves for whatever purpose. Maybe they're looking for body parts, maybe they're looking for treasure, but they are the fields of the Boneyard are guarded. I have guard stations. They are placed every few blocks in the dock ward. They get more exposure in the upper parts of the city, the nicer parts of the city, the merchant wards and stuff like that. But at each one of these, 1d6 plus 4 guards can be found, and their stats are on page 188. So I made a note like that just in case something comes up with the guards. Then I was like, okay, well, I need a couple of eating houses. There's a cheap and an expensive version listed on page 57 of the book. So all I did was create, I put the Cod Cafe. It's an eating house. It's low end. And then I put Kelp's Kettle, which is a high-end eating house. And that lets me look at page 57 very quickly and go, okay, well, here's the prices of their stuff, depending on whether they're low end or high end. And that's basically what I've done for the campaign at this point, and which we actually start playing tonight. They've already made their characters. They already have grave robbing characters. Some of them have that kind of background. So we'll see how all of this plays out. I'll probably do some more videos at some point in the future to just tell you about the campaign. For if you're interested in that, put it in the comments and I'll be happy to do it. But that's kind of how I set my campaign up. I didn't set a particular adventure where they have to follow from point of interest to point of interest. I set up an area with a lot of points of interest where they can do whatever they want to, and I can just kind of feed off of that and play the campaign out, and I can be surprised at stuff that happens too, which is always fun when you're running a game. So those are the tools that I'm using, and as you can see, it builds a story for the players in my group game, but it also, as they're playing, NPCs are being created, places are being created. They're filling out the map as they explore, basically, and helping me in the process to create a world that I can also solo play in. So that's how I'm using it to set up this campaign. There are plenty of pre-done adventures that you can get to set your campaign up just using those if you want to. You can do a campaign of just exploration. I'm using a lot of different stuff to try to create a really fun sandbox game, just because I've never really I've done kind of sandbox games, but it was more linear story with possible side tracks. With this, I really wanted my players to have the agency to go and do what they wanted to go and do. So I'm excited to see how that plays out. Looking forward to tonight's game. That's really all I've got on that at this point. If you're interested in the kind of videos I'm making on this channel or supporting the channel, please join, subscribe. If you want to help the channel out, there's links in the description for that. And until next time, my friends, good gaming.